Hong Kong, 1974. The neon lights of Kowloon flickered through the rain like dying stars, casting red and blue reflections across the wet pavement. In a cramped alleyway off Nathan Road, beneath a makeshift tarp that did little to keep the weather out, sat one of the world's greatest martial artists, and almost nobody knew he was there. Ip Man was 80 years old, sick and forgotten by a world that had moved on. The man who had trained Bruce Lee, the grandmaster of Wing Chun, now spent his nights in a Dai Pai Dong, one of those street restaurants where factory workers ate after midnight shifts and taxi drivers grabbed noodles between fares. Nobody asked questions. He sat alone at a wobbly metal table near the back, one hand wrapped around a chipped porcelain cup of jasmine tea, the other pressed against his chest as another coughing fit racked his frail body. The sound was wet and harsh, drawing a few glances before people quickly looked away. In Hong Kong you learned not to stare at other people's misfortunes, but his eyes, even through the exhaustion, his eyes were still sharp as broken glass. The restaurant owner, a woman with tired eyes and flour-dusted hands, brought him fresh tea without being asked. She never charged him full price. She'd seen him here for months now, always alone, always quiet, always drinking tea like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. Across the restaurant, near the front where rain occasionally splattered inside, a group of young stuntmen huddled around their own table. Their voices rose with each beer they downed, growing louder as the night wore on. They were part of Hong Kong's booming film industry, scrambling desperately to fill the void left by Bruce Lee's sudden death 7 months earlier. 7 months. The Dragon had died in July, and now it was February, and the studios were in a panic. Every producer was searching for the next big martial arts star. Every director was looking for someone who could kick like Bruce, move like Bruce, scream like Bruce. There was money to be made. Serious money, if you could just find the right fighter. And none wanted it more than the 20-year-old kid standing on his chair, beer in one hand, mimicking Bruce's signature moves with the other. Jackie Chan, though he wasn't really Jackie yet. Still going by Sing Lung, threw a flurry of punches into the air, complete with those high-pitched ki screams Bruce had made famous. His fellow stuntmen cheered, pounding the table. Jackie grinned, feeding off their energy, and launched into an exaggerated version of the nunchaku scene from Fist of Fury. "Watch this," he shouted in Cantonese. "Just like Brother Dragon, I'm telling you. When the studios see me, when they really see what I can do." He leaped off his chair, attempting a flying sidekick that would have looked spectacular on camera. What it looked like in a cramped street restaurant was something else entirely. His foot caught the edge of his own table, sending him stumbling sideways directly into Bim's table. The collision was spectacular in all the wrong ways. Jackie's hip slammed into the metal surface, sending it tilting violently. Ip Man's teacup flew into the air, spinning in slow motion, before splashing across the old man's worn gray jacket. The restaurant went silent. Even the cook stopped chopping. Everyone turned to look. Jackie froze mid-stumble, one leg elevated, arms windmilling desperately for balance. He caught himself on another table, overcompensated, nearly fell again before finally steadying himself against a post. The entire sequence looked like something from a Buster Keaton film, which, ironically, was where Jackie's real talents lay, though he didn't know it yet. Oh no, oh no no no. Jackie's eyes went wide as he saw who he'd hit. Even sick and aged, there was something about the old man that made his warrior instincts scream danger. "Sir, I am so sorry. Please, let me." He rushed forward with a napkin, reaching to wipe the tea off Ip Man's jacket. But he did it the way he did everything, with too much energy, his entire body involved in what should have been a simple gesture. He practically lunged at the old man, arm extended like a punch. Ip Man's hand moved. It wasn't fast, it wasn't flashy. But suddenly, Jackie's wrist was caught, turned with the gentlest pressure, and his whole body was following the rotation, spinning him around until he faced away from the table. He blinked, utterly confused about how he'd gotten there. "Careful, young man," Ip Man said, his voice raspy but calm. He released Jackie's wrist and reached for a fresh napkin himself, dabbing at his jacket. Tea stains are stubborn, especially jasmine tea. Jackie turned back around, laughing nervously. Yes, of course. Look, let me buy you another cup. Actually, let me buy you dinner. He gestured enthusiastically, accidentally knocking a menu off a nearby table. Sorry. Ip Man watched this display with the expression of someone observing a particularly energetic puppy. He took a slow sip of what remained of his tea, then set the cup down deliberately. You're a stuntman, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. Working at Golden Harvest. Big production. Lots of action. They say I'm one of the best. I can take any fall, stick any landing. I've been training since I was 7 at the China Drama Academy. Jackie demonstrated with a hand flourish that nearly knocked over another cup. I can see that, Ip Man said dryly. Another cough shook him, deeper this time. He pressed his hand to his chest, waiting for it to pass. When he looked up, there was something in his gaze that made Jackie suddenly feel 7 years old again. You were imitating Bruce Lee, Ip Man continued. Jackie's face lit up. You knew him, Brother Dragon? Master. He was incredible, wasn't he? The way he moved, the speed, the power. Jackie's hands came up automatically, throwing quick jabs. I've been studying his films frame by frame, trying to capture that intensity. Stop. The single word cut through Jackie's enthusiasm, like a blade. Ip Man hadn't raised his voice, but the command in that syllable made Jackie freeze mid-punch, one fist extended. Sit down, Ip Man said, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. Jackie hesitated, glancing at his watching friends. But something in the old man's eyes, a kind of gravity that made disagreement impossible, made Jackie lower his fist and carefully sit down. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Rain pattered against the tarp. Somewhere in the kitchen, a wok hissed. You knew Bruce Lee, Jackie said carefully. You were his Sifu. I taught him some things. He taught himself far more. Bruce was exceptional, driven, another cough. And I know what you're trying to do. I just want to honor his legacy. No, Ip Man's interruption was gentle but final. You want to replace him. You want to be him. Every young fighter in Hong Kong wants the same thing right now. The studios are desperate for it. The audiences are crying out for it. He paused. But tell me, young man, can you replace the sun? Jackie blinked. Sir, Bruce Lee was like the sun. Brilliant, powerful, impossible to ignore. But when the sun sets, you don't try to put another sun in the sky. Ip Man's voice was patient. The problem isn't that you're not good enough. The problem is you're trying to be a copy of something that already existed and now doesn't. Jackie felt heat rising in his face. With respect, Master, I'm not copying. That's how martial arts works. We learn from our masters. Show me. What? Show me your Bruce Lee. Give me your best dragon. Jackie glanced at his friends, who were watching with rapt attention now. This was his chance to demonstrate his skills to an actual master. He stood up, took a breath, and dropped into Bruce's famous fighting stance. Weight on his back leg, lead hand extended, that coiled spring posture. Then he launched into a combination from Enter the Dragon, rapid-fire punches, lightning kicks, even the ki shouts. He moved with genuine skill, his opera training evident in the precision of his movements. He finished with a jumping back kick and combat roll, coming up in fighting stance, breathing hard but grinning. How was that? Loud, Ip Man said after a moment. Also, incorrect. Jackie's grin faltered. Incorrect? But that was exactly. Bruce's stance was lower. His lead hand was higher. His weight distribution was different. Ip Man demonstrated with his own hand, barely moving. But more importantly, that wasn't his real fighting stance. That was his movie stance, designed to look good on camera. What you're copying is already a copy, twice removed from truth. Then show me the real thing. Teach me. No, I'm too old, too sick, and you wouldn't listen anyway. You're too busy moving to pay attention to stillness. Ip Man's eyes glinted. Come at me. Jackie froze. What? Attack me. I'm an 80-year-old man with a lung condition, sitting in a chair. Surely the next dragon can handle that. I don't want to hurt you, sir. You won't. The absolute certainty stung. Jackie felt anger flare, the cold anger of being dismissed. He was 20 years old, trained since childhood, at the peak of his abilities. Fine. Jackie moved. He threw a quick jab toward Ip Man's shoulder, something that would make contact but not cause harm. His fist never arrived. Ip Man's hand barely seemed to move, and suddenly Jackie's wrist was caught. Before he could react, his arm was being turned, his body following, his balance completely compromised. He tried to pull back, the pressure increased, until he was on his toes, practically dancing to avoid falling. You're using too much force, Ip Man said, conversationally. Fighting against yourself. Jackie yanked back and found himself spinning, stumbling backward. The old man hadn't stood up. Now Jackie was truly angry. He came in faster, punch, punch, elbow, knee. Each attack was intercepted, redirected. It was like fighting smoke. Every time he thought he'd gotten past the guard, his own arm blocked his other arm. His own momentum threw him off balance. Ip Man's hands moved in small circles. Chow Sao, the sticky hands of Wing Chun. He maintained constant contact with Jackie's arms, feeling every intention before it became action, responding not to what Jackie did, but to what Jackie was about to do. Jackie tried his acrobatic training. He faked high, ducked low, tried to go around the table. Ip Man's hands found him every time. When Jackie tried to jump clear, breaking contact entirely, he landed awkwardly, one hand having redirected his trajectory mid-leap. The more Jackie moved, the more tangled he became. The more force he used, the harder he fell. Finally, gasping for breath, sweat pouring down his face, despite the cool air, Jackie backed away. The whole restaurant had gone quiet. I don't understand, Jackie panted. I didn't even stand up. A coughing fit seized Ip Man longer and harsher. When it passed, he looked frailer, older. Do you know why? Jackie shook his head. Because I didn't need to. You did all the work for me. Every jump, every spin. All wasted energy. Wasted motion. He gestured at the chair. Sit. Jackie sat without hesitation. Bruce understood economy of motion, efficiency. He could fight for 30 seconds on screen and make it look like 30 minutes, because every single movement had purpose. No wasted motion. Another weak cough. But you're doing the opposite. Filling space with motion instead of purpose. I just want to be great, Jackie said quietly, like he was. Then stop trying to be him. The words hung in the air. Bruce Lee is dead, Ip Man said with real sadness. That brilliant young man is gone. The world wants him back, the studios, the audiences, all you young fighters. But you cannot resurrect the dead by wearing their clothes and copying their moves. You'll only create a ghost, and a poor one at that. But the studios will use you and discard you the moment they find someone who can do a better Bruce Lee impression. Is that what you want? To spend your career as an imitation? He leaned forward. Or do you want to be remembered as yourself? Jackie opened his mouth, closed it. He thought about the opera school, the endless hours of training, the stunt work, all in service of making someone else look good. I don't know who myself is. For the first time, Ip Man smiled, small and sad, but genuine. Then find out, that's the only challenge that matters. He tapped Jackie's chest with one finger. You have skill, training, but you have something else too. Something I saw in how you fell, how you rolled, even how you knocked over my tea. You make martial arts look like play, like joy, like fun. Jackie frowned. Fun. Kung Fu is serious. Bruce took everything seriously. Perhaps too seriously. Perhaps that's what killed him. That intensity burning him up from inside. Another cough. The world just lost the most serious martial artist it ever produced. It doesn't need another one. He fixed Jackie with that stare. Maybe it needs someone who can make people smile while they watch someone fight. Someone who can take a fall and make it look like poetry. Someone who shows martial arts doesn't have to be all fury and revenge, that it can be something else, something lighter. But that's not traditional. That's not real Kung Fu. And who decides what's real? I've taught Wing Chun for 60 years. Wing Chun itself is only a few hundred years old. Practically yesterday in martial arts history, someone created it. Someone decided this was a new way to fight. Why can't you create something new? Why can't you decide your own way? Jackie sat back, mind racing. Everything he'd been taught assumed there was a right way, a proper path. The idea that he could create something, invent something, I wouldn't even know where to start. Start by being honest. Stop pretending to be Bruce Lee. Stop doing those ridiculous ki shouts. The slight smile softened the bluntness. Use what you learned in the opera. Use your acrobatics. Use your comedy. Use everything that makes you different from Bruce Lee, not everything that makes you similar. The studios will never accept that. Then make them. Bruce did. He walked into American studios and forced them to accept something they'd never seen. He made them believe. You can do the same, but only if you believe in yourself first. Jackie looked at his scarred stuntman's hands. Could he really create something new? I'm afraid, he admitted. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. Use it. Let it make you careful, not paralyzed. Better, not smaller. Another coughing fit seized the old master. Longer this time, racking his entire frame. When it finally subsided, he slumped back, exhausted. But he placed his hand on Jackie's arm, gently this time. I won't live to see what you become. But I believe you'll become something that matters. Just don't waste your life trying to be a dead man's shadow. Cast your own shadow. Let the sun shine on you. Jackie felt tears stinging his eyes. Thank you, Sifu. I'm not your Sifu. I didn't teach you anything. You taught yourself just now. I only pointed at what was already there. They sat in silence. The rain had stopped, and neon lights reflected in puddles outside, making everything look like it was floating in colored light. What should I do next? Jackie asked. Tomorrow, go to work, do your stunts. But while you're doing it, start thinking about how you'd do it differently. Start imagining what Jackie Chan's Kung Fu looks like. Not Bruce Lee's, not your opera master's, not mine, yours. He paused. And buy me another cup of tea. You did spill mine. Jackie laughed, a real laugh, and stood to flag down the owner. When the tea arrived, he set it down carefully and bowed deeply. Thank you. That man waved him off. Go on, your friends are waiting. And stop bowing, like that too much motion. Economy of movement, remember? Jackie straightened, grinning, as he walked back. His mind raced with possibilities. His friends started asking questions, but he held up a hand, eyes distant. What would Jackie Chan's Kung Fu look like? Behind him, Ip Man sipped his tea and allowed himself another small smile. The young man would figure it out. He had the skills, creativity, resilience. More importantly, he had the courage to be told he was wrong and actually listen. That was rarer than talent. Maybe the world didn't need another Bruce Lee. Maybe it needed exactly what this strange, brilliant young stuntman would become. Ip Man finished his tea and stood slowly, each movement careful and deliberate. As he shuffled toward the door with his cane, he glanced back at Jackie, who was already demonstrating something new to his friends, already different from before. Good. The old master stepped into the night, into reflected neon and wet streets, and disappeared into the city. He would be dead within months. But the seeds he'd planted tonight, in a chance encounter with a clumsy young stuntman who'd spilled his tea, would grow into something remarkable. Jackie Chan would spend the next 50 years proving Ip Man right. He would create a style uniquely his own, blending Kung Fu with comedy, acrobatics with acting, danger with delight. He would become a global icon, not by imitating Bruce Lee, but by being courageously, wonderfully himself. He would make people gasp and laugh in the same breath. He would risk his life 1,000 times, breaking nearly every bone in his body in pursuit of the perfect shot. He would show the world that martial arts could be joyful, that action could be funny, that you could be both a serious fighter and a complete goofball. But on that rainy night in February 1974, in a crowded Dai Pai Dong in Kowloon. He was just a scared 20-year-old who'd been told to stop copying and start creating. Just a young man who'd had his tea spilled and his entire worldview shaken by an old master who couldn't even stand up from his chair, and that made all the difference.